Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti al primo webinar TPS Hub. Focus di oggi è Export Cina. Assieme ai nostri esperti TPS andiamo ad esplorare in profondità le strade dell'export in Cina e le relative certificazioni obbligatorie di prodotto. Voglio ricordare che questo è il primo di una serie di webinar, tutti quanti possono essere trovati all'interno della pagina LinkedIn di TPS Hub. Infine vi ricordo che tutti i webinar organizzati quest'anno sono gratuiti, quindi apprezziamo ovviamente il vostro contributo a seguire la newsletter TPS Hub su LinkedIn o sulla pagina YouTube. Ecco, con noi oggi ovviamente Stefano Ottavi, CEO di TPS, con il quale andremo a sviscerare un po' la tematica del webinar di oggi. Prego.
Grazie Ingegner Gostoli, benvenuti a tutti e bentrovati a questo nostro primo evento TPS, novità appunto del 2024, che offre per le aziende sia nostre abbonate che a tutte le aziende che vogliono partecipare l'occasione di approfondire tematiche specifiche riguardo ai mercati internazionali. Come diceva il collega, trovate tanti altri webinar che verranno fatti nel 2024 e che prevedono tantissime tematiche interessanti e molto legate alle esportazioni. Volevo ringraziare tutto lo staff TPS per l'organizzazione di questo webinar, ai nostri colleghi che adesso interverranno appunto dalla Cina e tutto lo staff del nostro collaboratore specialist Ming Zhu. Il mercato cinese offre possibilità commerciali veramente interessanti e importanti per le aziende italiane e le aziende europee. Tuttavia nasconde importanti complessità a livello regolamentare, normativo e legislativo. E oggi, assieme ai nostri specialist, andremo a vedere appunto le certificazioni obbligatorie e le certificazioni CCC, appunto, China's Compulsory Certification, legate ai vari prodotti. Permettetemi di fare due parole introduttive di chi è TPS e i servizi offerti. TPS è un team di specialisti in grado di fornire supporto tecnico mirato al processo di vendita delle aziende, mettendo al centro del progetto le caratteristiche tecniche del prodotto, chiaramente unite alle potenzialità dei mercati internazionali. I servizi che offriamo. La complex di prodotto è l'attività su cui si basa ed è il cuore del TPS e si riferisce a tutte le attività di conformità di prodotto, quindi regolamentari, normative, legislative e standard, applicabili nel mercato in cui vengono vendute. Questi requisiti possono riguardare diversi aspetti del prodotto, come ad esempio la sicurezza, la qualità, l'ambiente, la salute e altri aspetti. Sempre più aspetti si legano alle tematiche di sostenibilità, quindi è per questo che TPS offre il servizio legato al life cycle and eco design, che offre tematiche e certificazioni legate alla sfera di sostenibilità, che hanno sempre più valore commerciale a livello nazionale e internazionale. Le nostre expertise si basano su tantissimi mercati e vengono rivolte a sempre più mercati esteri. Come potete vedere abbiamo tantissimi expert e specialist nei mercati di riferimento, come può essere tutti i paesi europei, il mercato UK, piuttosto che Stati Uniti, Canada, Cina, di cui oggi approfondiremo un argomento molto importante, Saudi Arabia e Brasile, ma tanti altri paesi che poi potrete trovare anche sul nostro sito www.tpshub.it. E cosa offriamo? Quali sono i nostri servizi legati all'export Cina? Il principale servizio è rivolto all'aggiornamento normativo, quindi un aggiornamento mensile per le novità regolamentari e normative legato alle principali cambiamenti riguardo ai prodotti, regolamenti e mercati. Attività molto importanti sono le consulenze personalizzate, quindi attività mirate alle aziende esportatrici, quindi legate a dei progetti specifici in merito alla conformità di prodotto. Altri servizi legati alle analisi regolamentari e le politiche per entrare nel mercato cinese. E ultimo, ma sempre di molto valore, il servizio di traduzione. Come sempre le normative cinesi hanno una complessità sia di lettura sia interpretativa. Senza ulteriori indugi diamo al via al nostro webinar all'Export Cina sulle certificazioni obbligatorie dei prodotti. Vi voglio ricordare che tutte le domande che avete potete scrivere all'indirizzo email compliance@tpshub.it. Con questo vi voglio invitare sempre a seguire la pagina YouTube e LinkedIn, dove trovate tante novità e tutti i nostri servizi. Now we are ready. I'd like to pass the floor at our specialist Minghui Chu.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming to our webinar. Today we are going to present you how to do China compulsory certification, the commonly known CCC certification. In today's webinar, we are going to cover a variety of different topics regarding the CCC certification that will include overview, key stakeholders, general rules and implementation rules, catalog, conformity assessment models, certification bodies, certification labs, CCC procedures, mark and certificate, cost and exemption. So we will not dig in very detailed information for every little aspect due to the time reason, but hopefully this presentation will give you a clear picture of how CCC works and how to do it if your products are captured by this scheme. Let's start with the overview. So China compulsory certification, known as the CCC for short, it is actually a conformity assessment system which required for the importation and the sale of certain types of products in China. It was actually implemented on May 1st, 2002 and became mandatory since the August 1st, 2003. So to help you get a clear general picture, CCC is actually quite similar to other certification for product quality standardization, such as the European CE system. So, and of course, there are important differences. CCC applies to imported goods as well as to Chinese domestic products, and products which require certification may only be imported, sold, or used in the business activities in China after a CCC mark has been obtained. It means that regardless where did you produce or manufacture your products, as long as your products is within the CCC scope, you have to do it and you have to have it in order to be sold. And this certification is not required for the product not listed in the CCC catalog on the other side. So we will explain the catalog further in the later presentation. And then if your products are listed in the catalog, then The following requirements must be fulfilled before the products can be launched in the China market. Firstly, they have to comply with applicable standards. The standard used for CCC certification are Chinese national standards, or more commonly known as the GB standards. And many of these standards are equivalent to international standards. Here we're referring the international standards to ISO and IEC standards. Well, however, it is important to remember that there may be other non-technical requirements that must be complied with, which are detailed in the updated CCC implementation rules, which is also a topic that we're going to cover later. And then to confirm the assessment procedures and modules, since October of 2019, there is a CCC self-declaration for certain product groups, which means if you are marked as certain product groups that are allowed, then you only need to do a self-declaration to obtain a CCC certification instead of a third-party conformity assessment. And the rest of the products within the catalog are still subject to certification by designated certification bodies. And but as a whole, for the CCC catalogs, it now contains about 100 types of products that would require this certification as a mandatory requirement. And the CCC conformity inspection on whether the products within the catalog may be held at the border by the Chinese customs and will be subject to other penalties. So again, this is very important. And then we are going to cover some key facts about the CCC. First, the scope. It is frequently updated. Some products are added in and some are removed. So based on the latest version of the CCC catalog that was announced in September 5th of 2023, now it actually contains 96 products within 16 big categories, and of which 19 products apply self-declaration, and the rest of them are still required to do a third-party certification. And for implementers, now currently they are all located in China, and it means that testing samples are required to be sent to China for testing, and usually 2 samples are required. So now currently we have 34 designated certification bodies and 277 designation laboratories for the CCC certification. And however, depending on the product and the actual testing samples to be provided, it may vary. 2 is just an example and covering probably like most of the cases, but not for sure. So preparing test samples as well as having all of this proper information when shipping products to China for testing may be quite confusing. So it is very important to have a comprehensive and accurate information or identification of such affairs, and the manufacturers will be able to determine and what exactly they need or how the requirements are there for their samples and how many do they need. And probably maybe with some help of professionals who actually knows and understand very much these Chinese requirements may help. And then regarding the implementation rules, there are actually 8 general common rules for products requiring certification. And for every product group where CCC certification is required, there are corresponding implementation rules as well. And currently for this kind of specific product-oriented implementation rules, there are 22 of them. And they are developed and updated to define the scope for the product testing with detailed corresponding national standards and technical specifications. Overall certification procedures, requirements for sampling, initial factory checks and follow-up inspections, etc. All these kind of information are also covered in the implementation rules. So all the important requirements for a particular product group, you can find it within the implementation rules for the product category. And on top of those official implementation rules, each certification body, they have updated their own implementation rules with more detailed procedures and requirements. And we will explain more in the next part regarding how to do that specifically. Now in this slide, you will see the key stakeholders of the CCC. And first of all, the National Certification and Accreditation Administration, commonly known as the CNCA, as you can see in the first column. They are the competent authority for implementing the CCC certification at the top level, which is also responsible for determining what products would fall within the CCC category. They are also accrediting certification bodies, testing labs, and responsible for market surveillance and management for existing certified products on the national level as a whole. And move to the next level, the designated certification and testing bodies. The testing bodies and testing labs are designed or assigned by CNCA, each with their own designated areas. So they might not covering all the categories or all the product types within the CCC catalog. So when you are trying to locate or identify one that you want to work with, you need to firstly double check whether they are capable or designated of the product type that you will do. And like I explained in the previous slides as well, currently there are 34 designated certification bodies, and each body conducts CCC certification within designated areas, and 277 designated labs. The situation of their working scope is the same. And 6 of the designated labs are actually foreign companies. And while the designation areas for the product certification and testing can be found in a notice published by the CNCA, as well as a website officially owned by the CNCA, with the most updated list of the designated certification and testing bodies where you can check. And on the next level, the very practical level, are the local authorities. So local market regulation authority is the one who's responsible for market surveillance of certified products within their region. And they are probably the one that's doing the market sampling and all kind of inspection more frequently than the national level. And they are also monitoring the products which are put into the market within their region as well. So next, about the CCC general rules and implementation rules. So CNC actually developed 8 general common rules for products during the CCC certification. And these 8 common rules stipulating the basic requirements for doing CCC across all the products covered by the catalog. And at the top, you can see there are some examples of these common rules, such as for the factory quality insurance capability, means how to conduct a factory audit, and as well as the one that teach you or tell you how to make self-declaration, etc. The ones that regarding the general requirements of factory capabilities requirements, quality assurance, etc. And to the implementation rules specifically, there are 22 of them assigned to different products specifically. And on different products, there are different rules and requirements and testing items as well, where you can. So it is very important that you look into the implementation rules of your product type and understand what kinds of requirements you need to conform with. And you can see some samples that we put. This is only part of it. And they actually define the application scope of the rules as well. Understand the implementation rules is to be adopted in the certification, and the certification rules including standards, which generally again means the national standards. In China we call that GB or GBT standards. So to give you more information, GB standards, the Chinese national standards, they're generally identical or equivalent to IEC standards in the scope of the CCC. But based on this series of implementation rules, each certification body made detailed implementation rules on their own for them to conduct the specific certification. So again, if you want to do the CCC, you still need to check the national implementation rules and also consult with the certification bodies that you might work with, or have a professional to help you to streamline all the procedures or the requirements that you need to follow. And the implementation rules is actually like a basic guideline and the requirements. There are some specific requirements that would be subject to the certification body or the lab. And regarding now, we're going to talk about the catalog, which has been mentioned frequently in the previous section. And about the catalog, it is a file that are updated from time to time based on the market change. And the CCC certification must therefore be conducted for the product groups appearing in this catalog and the announcement of the CNCA. For example, in 2022, in September, the lithium-ion battery and cells, portable power banks, and power adapters for electrical and electronic products, along with the charging devices for telecommunication terminal products, they have been added into the catalog. But of course, in the meantime, products can be removed as well from the catalog. They are basically removed because of the low risk and much less frequently used status in the society, and such as the electric organs, video and audio recorders. This kind of products has been removed from the CCC catalog. And the principle of the catalog adjustment is to base on the products with relatively low risk and less contacted with ordinary consumers. And in this page, you will see all the latest major categories of the CCC catalog, together with how many product types it covers. Now here on this page, we can see a screenshot of the CCC catalog. This is the English translated version as well, but actually for CCC catalog, it is always provided within Chinese language and without an official translation version. So if you need an English version, you can turn to the partners or turn to us to get an English one, and we'll be happy to help. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the column. So generally contains two major informations: the product list and the major category that it belongs to. And we can also see some details within this screenshot is that some of the signs right beside the number on the right column, that's actually a mark to tell you what kind of conformity assessment model you can choose. There are basically three models: the third-party certification, the Model A, and the Model B. And Model A and Model B generally refers to the self-declaration, which is easier and probably take less time for the manufacturers to make the products able to be sold in the China market. And we will cover that details of these three models in the later section. And then you can see a circle right here, which we can see is a number, a 4-digit number. It is only assigned to a certain kind of product as long as it's within the CCC catalog. And you will see this number again as part of the certificate number after you get the CCC certification certificate. So again, the key point is that a manufacturer should have a way to determine, or have an easy way to determine, whether their products falls within the CCC catalog. So a quick way to get an idea is to use the HS code. So HS code is the Harmonized System Code, and the full name is International Convention for Harmonized Commodity Description and Coding System, and they are used to categorize products in process of custom clears, and it is a mandatory information for a product to be imported into the country. So, and for China, the HS code system contains 10 digits, and we mention this is because the State Administration for Market Regulation, which is the highest management authority in China to manage all the products sold in the market, and the highest authority of China's market surveillance. So they and the China Customs have issued a chart to put in the HS code together with the CCC products catalog to help the manufacturers and all the relevant stakeholders to know whether their products are within. But unfortunately, again, this chart is still in Chinese language, and there is no official translation of English yet. And another point is that it may not be updated on a very timely basis, as the CCC catalog has been frequently changed. So this is a reference, and but it may not be the very accurate tool, just assisting tool, but not an accurate tool for you to decide whether your product falls within CCC. But this is a very helpful way to do so. And then with the help of some professionals, or like a service team that can help you with similar determinations, this will be a very important tool. And now we are moving to talk about the conformity assessment models finally. So as we explained before, there are in general 3 models. And the first one is definitely the most important one, the third-party certification. It applies to the majority product types in the CCC catalog, which is covering 84 kinds of products. And so for this kind of products, if you want to do a third-party certification, it means that you need to do tap test, factory audit, period inspection, and even after obtaining the certificate. And it would generally apply to the products with rather higher safety risk and easy to be contacted by the regular consumers. So besides, as we know, there are almost 100 types of products, and so the rest of the 19 products are allowed to use the self-declaration form, and actually 12 of them is allowed to use the self-declaration model B, which means you can do a tap test in a designated CCC labs and then make a self-declaration. So, and it actually applies to the products with high, but not that high, top level high safety risks. And so for self-declaration model A, it is actually easier than the self-declaration model B. It covers 7 products which are very stably used and with very low safety risk to the regular customers. So for this kind of model, which is the self-declaration model A, you only need to do a tap test in self-selected labs and then submit it to the official CCC self-declaration website with a self-declaration. That will be enough for now. And so basically, we want to cover a little bit more regarding what is a self-selected labs. So self-selected labs is defined in one of the common general implementation rules called the self-declaration with the number CNCA 00C008. And it mentions that what kind of self-selected labs are allowed. And for the model B, we have to say that it must be a designated CCC labs which you can check what kind of labs and which labs are also have been designated by the CCC and within the system. There is an official website, and we will cover to that later. And next part, we're going to discuss the certification bodies. So again, they are designated by the CNCA, the top management regarding the CCC implementation. And they are the only issuers of the CCC certificate, which means certification labs are allowed to do the CCC test as long as they are designated by the CNCA. But some of the certification labs of the CCC system is not probably a CCC certification body. So you need to tell one from another and to find the exactly CCC certification bodies to have the finalized certificate. And so again, as we explained earlier, so for all the certification bodies, they may not be allowed to cover all the product types within the CCC systems within the CCC catalog, which means, and then so you have to determine whether they do or they are allowed to do a product. And what's more, certification bodies, they develop its own detailed implementation rules based on the implementation rules officially announced by the CNCA. So next, we will give you an example. So the China Quality Certification Center, which is, we call that CQC shortly. So they are the ones probably with the highest priority or with the highest level of CCC certification within China. And they are the ones who probably covering the most product types, but they still probably do not contain all the products. Here you can see they're in the official website of the CCC system. You can check the lab name or the certification body name, and then right after the certification body's name, you can see what kind of products they are designated or they are accredited to do the CCC certification. And then for the certification body list, we actually selected several of them. Now currently there are totally 34 of them. We select, this is not a full list, but this is some of the top or like the well-known ones within China, where you can choose. You can see the first one is CQC, and then the China Certification Center for Agricultural Machinery. Again, they have their own scope of designated certification product scopes. So you need to check again. And regarding the certification labs, it's actually easier. They are still have the same format. So again, they have to be designated by the CNCA. And so they carry out tests and inspection with designated scope, which means they only allowed or they're only qualified to do the CCC certification test as long as they're assigned by the CNCA. Otherwise, they may not be qualified, and their test reports or testing data results might not be qualified to apply a CCC certification. And currently, for the certification labs, as we explained, there are totally 277 of them, a much larger amount than the certification bodies. So within this more than almost 300 numbers of labs, there are 6 of them are FIE labs. And for example, like the ones that probably are also famous in globally, like SGS and TUV, they're involved. And now we'll move to a very practical part to explain to you the procedure on how to do the CCC for your product. So far, in general, there are 4 steps. So number 1, of course, is to determine your products, whether they are within the catalog, they need to do the CCC. And then step 2, you need to determine the applicable conformity assessment model and which certification bodies and labs you would turn to. And then step 3, you need to identify the applicable implementation rules and standards. And honestly, if you have a partner who is very professional and who has the expertise to do this, they will be able to give you a whole pack solution, which will help you, first of all, determine whether your products are within the catalog, and then tell you which kind of rules or regulations, as well as the standards and implementation rules that your product need to follow in order to get the CCC certification. And then, of course, then we will be able to move to step 4 and to conduct the third-party certification or self-declaration. So we'll go into more details regarding the steps. Now, step 1, the determination of your products. The basic ways would be check the product's name and comparing with the CCC catalog, and then match the product's attributes and features that are provided within the catalog. And then you are also able to search keywords in eligible certification bodies portals for previous cases. There are different certification bodies as well as some official websites of the CCC system where you can check and search such kind of information. And again, consulting eligible certification bodies and labs, or turn to a partner or consulting firm that can provide you with a whole pack of one-stop solution would be also a very good way to do so. And then also you can check your competitors, or maybe some of them has already sold their products into China, and you can see what kind of CCC CCC certifications or tests they're doing. It can also be a very useful information. And then after finish the determination, we move to the step 2, where we determine applicable conformity assessment models and the designated CCC certification bodies and labs. So again, if your products falls in the scope of the CCC, you will find the designated conformity assessment method in the CCC catalog. Whether you need to do third-party certification, do self-declaration Model A or Model B, and also identify qualified certification bodies and labs according to the CNCA's announcement of the designated certification bodies and labs for CCC. There is a updating list where you can find on their website or the official CCC system platform, which will provide the link later in this presentation. And then next, you choose the appropriate ones, the certification bodies and labs according to the price, the convenience, service quality, reputation, etc. So this is basically you find and locate the model that you need to choose, and then find the right organization or the bodies that you need to turn to. And again, on this slide, we are presenting you the 3 models of the conformity assessment methods again. So once your product is contained within the CCC catalog, it must follow the procedure of one of these 3, and which is the most difficult and probably take the longest time, is third-party certification. And then it will be an easier choice if your products falls within the self-declaration B model, because it would just need to do a test, lab test from the designated CCC labs, and then do a self-declaration on the official website. Then you're done. And then for the easiest one, comparing with all 3, is the self-declaration Model A, where you can do a self-selected labs. So now we're moving to step 3. So step 3 is identify applicable implementation rules and standards. So before conformity assessment, you need to make clear the requirements stipulated in the applicable CNCA implementation rules and relevant standards adopted in the CNCA implementation rules as well. That's the ones that we call GB standards, which are national Chinese standards. And make sure your products comply with the standards requirements. It's also a must. So, and detailed implementation rules developed by the chosen designated certification body if you need to do a third-party certification. Because if you're going to do the certification, you must ensure that your products or the samples are already conformed with all the requirements. So this is a step that you need to do first before you turn into the certification bodies or again, like the what I explained, the one-stop solution provider, like a consulting firm, a professional team, like us, and which means if you are not sure whether your products is complies with the test and the requirements of the CCC system. So it's better for you to have the full list and all the technical requirements and specifications ready and make a technical comparison and see what kind of changes or modifications that you probably need to do before you put the samples and send them into China to do the test, to save the possible cost and all the troubles that may comes with if you failed in the test. And so step 4, so conducts third-party certification or self-declaration. This is the final. It's after all the preparations, the determination, and like the technical analysis. This is the final step that you are finally putting the products or the samples into China, into the Chinese testing labs and certification bodies to do it. So for third-party certification, there are certain procedures as well. It takes some time. So of course, the first one is to apply and have the certification body or the labs accept the certification application, and then they will do a sampling and testing. So the sampling and testing, it generally requires 2 for the majority of product types of the samples out of the products. But some of the product types may have or may require more samples. So this is also a point where you need to double check with your certification body or the one-stop solution provider. And then for the third-party certification, there is a must step is that the certification body need to do an initial factory inspection. For the ones that are locally located in China, definitely the officials of the certification bodies will go to the factory on site and do a thorough inspection. But nowadays, for some of the foreign manufacturers who actually produce their products out of China and with a rather long distance, there is also a possible way is to do an online inspection. So for the details, probably different certification bodies will have different requirements or procedures. So check with them regarding the factory inspection, which is also a must. And the next step is to do the evaluation and approval on the certification results. So first of all, the certification bodies or the labs provide the testing result and saying that, okay, so the result is within and conform with CCC certifications, and then the certification body will issue the certificate. And then after you getting the certificate, it actually does not mean that your products can have the CCC certification or the certificate for good. So there will be a follow-up inspection. And the follow-up inspection normally is in 12 months after the initial factory inspection, just to review the factory's quality, influence ability to check the product consistency to make sure that it is still conforms with CCC requirements. And sampling and testing according to the implementation rules is for sure. And since the 1st of September 2009, and the certificate will start to have the validity for 5 years. So every 5 years you need to apply, and you need to apply for the extension. And then to the applicant should make a review application they need to put in the application to the authorities within 90 days before the CCC certificate expires. So this is a basic drill if you need to do a third-party certification. Now for step 4, if you don't need to do a third-party certification, but a self-declaration, so that would be easier. So it means, again, what you need to do the self-declaration, again, identify the standards that you need to follow, make sure your product is conformed, and gain the complete test reports from the certification labs, or like a self-selected labs for different models. Means self-declaration model B, you need to turn to a CCC designated lab, and then for self-declaration model A, you can turn to a self-selected lab, and then make self-declaration of CCC, actually a self-declaration of conformity, that means that your promise that my products are conformed with the CCC requirements, it needs to base on the CNCA 00C and 008 CNCA rules. So again, at this point, let me explain what is a self-selected lab. So based on the CNCA 00C 008 implementation rule, a self-selected lab can be a lab owned by the manufacturer or the producer or can be chosen as a third-party lab. So as long as you are following the implementation rules of the lab, and as long as you are ensure that the product specifications are within the CCC certification, that will do. And then the most important step of this self-declaration model, the model B, model A that need a self-selected lab, is to finalize your self-declaration on the China official CCC self-declaration platform, which is unfortunately in Chinese. So you might need help but after all, whatever it takes, you need to finish the self-declaration officially on the website, on the official platform. Otherwise, it will not be considered as conform. And then the next part, we're going to take a look at the CCC mark and the certificate. So now you can see the CCC logo. So it's the standard picture of the CCC mark is available for downloading at the CNCA official website. So actually, they are based on the latest information and the requirements released by the CNCA. There are basically 3 types of marks, like the standard mark, the printed and molded mark, or the digital mark. After all, the vector picture of the CCC is allowed to be downloaded freely, but there are, if you need to like enlarge them or minimize them, there is a certain proportion that you need to follow, where you can see the data here. These 2 types are allowed model or the scales that a CCC is allowed, and you are allowed to enlarge or make it smaller based on the same proportion of the 4 of these 2 types of numbers. And the unit of the number of the dimension is in millimeters. And next, for the certificate, this is actually a sample of the certificate that you will going to receive. So the certificate can be paper or can be electronical. Now, basically, the CNCA is encourage all the manufacturers to use the electronical certificates. But if you need, the certification body is still able to provide you with a paper one. And also for the use of the certificate, if you're on the pause of the, for example, sorry, I forgot to extend my CCC certificate after 5 years. So currently my previous certification, the certificate is expired, and I haven't got and received or obtained the renewed ones. Then you mustn't use the CCC logo or the certificate. Otherwise, you will receive a penalty. And also for all kinds of different manufacturers from different regions, if you need, the certification body can issue you a translation of the certificate, but the translation of the certificate is only being used as a reference. It does not have the legal, the same legal power or the conformity qualification as the Chinese one. So that's another tip that we want to share. And now about the costs. So since before there was a official document issued by the CNCA and stipulating all the cost for the items, but since the August 1st, 2015, unified charging on CCC is no longer mandatory. So basically, the certification bodies and test labs, they are allowed to assign or to allocate their own expenses regarding their CCC services. And so we are here giving an example of the possible certification costs. So there is an application unit. For each application unit, for example, I have 5 products, then 500 RMB each. And for approval and registration fees, they would require for 800 per application. And then for factory inspection fee, because they need to send officials to the factory on site or have someone do the online inspection. So it's a 2,500 RMB per person per day. But that is actually not the whole cost that you need to bear to finish the CCC, because there are lab testing expenses as well. For example, different products, they will have different stipulated testing items in order to get the CCC certification. So for each testing items, different certification body might require different expenses. That is also a cost, probably like a rather big cost comparing with the other, the 3 costs that we listed here. So you need to consult the certification body or the one-stop solution provider that you would turn to get a specific total amount of the cost that you need to do for certain products. And there are also cases of exemption if your products are within the catalog, but you do not need to do CCC. But the case is very rare. For example, the products and samples for scientific reach, testing and certification inspection, and the parts and the components for maintenance purpose, the equipment parts for the complete factory production line, products do not for sale, but only for a commercial display. For example, you are going to China to do attend an exhibition conference. Then you have samples shipped in, then they do not need to do CCC. And the parts imported for the purpose of exporting the full equipment and then other exempted products for special purposes that are defined by the officials or the authorities. So basically, they're very small cases, and it's better do the CCC certificate if you are trying to selling the products in China. And now we are going to see some additional useful links. First of all, the official Chinese version of the CCC product scope and the catalog issued in September 5th last year. And we also put a link on the list and a search link of the CCC certification bodies and test labs here, and the corresponding CCC implementation rules of the CCC catalogs as of November of 2023. It is also a chart that are regularly updated on the CNCA website. And then the National Certification and Accreditation Information Public Service platform, where you can search all the certification bodies and the labs, and together with their contact information as well as their working scope, what kind of product categories they are allowed to do, and then the product self-declaration registration system, This is the official platform that we explained. If your products is only need to do a self-declaration, this platform that you must access and then put the self-declaration information into the platform and finalize it. This is the final step. Otherwise, your self-declaration will not be valid. And okay, that will be all for our sharing and presentation today. Hopefully this will help you get a clearer idea on the Chinese system. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us by the contact info that we show. And again, thank you for coming to the webinar, and thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.